films, and I would say that I would put you in the category of a cinephile. Someone
Which sounds dirty.
it does sound.
It really sounds like something that the SVU people are going to come get me for. He's a cinephile. Get him, Ice-T.
But I would definitely put you in the category of someone who loves movies, loves talking about movies, reading about movies, loves film history. I mean, as I am too. Would you agree that you're a?
I think I will yield to that. I don't know if I read as much about movies as maybe a true cinephile should, but I hate that word.
It does.
It just sounds bad,
So,
But anyway, yes, I would agree with that statement.
and you do like animated movies.
Yeah.
So we do have. I mean, you love not only things like the Batman the Animated Series, but there are several Disney movies that would.
Yeah, Beauty and the Beast, Robin Hood, Lady and the Tramp.
Right.
I'll also say modern ones like Frozen and Tangled are pretty cute, and
Right.
you know.
But as far as movies go, I feel like this puts you in an anomalous category. The fact that as much as you love movies and you love animated movies, you do not generally have favorable feelings about Pixar movies.
I
say you don't like Pixar. You say
I'm indifferent.
right. You're more apathetic.
I have never felt strongly about Pixar movies. I have never connected with them in the way other audiences have. I've never left one of them, feeling like my life was changed and that, I left weeping. Oh, Woody and Buzz. Oh, the first 10 minutes of Up. They've just never made that connection with me. And what I don't like is this assumption that I hate Pixar movies. I don't hate Pixar movies. I hate James Cameron movies. I hate the DC extended universe movies. I don't hate Pixar movies. I just don't care about them.
Right.
Which
I honestly feel like it's an age thing for you. Because Toy Story is the first Pixar movie. And you were
I was in high school.
17, 18 when that came out. You were not the target audience. So at that point, I feel like I picture little Brandon at that stage with, ladies and gentlemen of the audience, the curly mullet.
You got to bring up the mullet.
And the letter jacket.
I had the letter jacket.
That you get for theater.
That's right.
With Star Trek pins on it.
That damn right. Proudly.
I picture him, not going crazy over the new popular Toy Story movie, more being like, oh, I'm much cooler than you because I prefer Abbott and Costello movies. That's what real comedy is.
I have faced this criticism before. No, and let me tell you, I'm not going to deny that I have gone through my cinema snob periods.
Right.
I often cite James Cameron's Titanic as one of my least favorite movies of all time, but as a young man in college, I didn't have the knowledge or the vocabulary with which to fully describe why I didn't like it. It was just a very, I'm smarter than you, and this thing's popular and I hate it.
Right. But I mean, you would have been at that age to be like that.
But here's the thing, and this is why I don't go in for that argument when it comes to Pixar movies. I remember an ex-girlfriend of mine actually accused me of this.
Oh, we're bringing up the ex-girlfriends
now.
We're playing dirty.
No, not dirty.
I'm dirty here.
I'm not playing dirty. I'm giving you an example. When I was working at the theater camp, and I think that was right when Toy Story 3 had just come out.
Okay.
And every person on that faculty, from the teenagers to the 55-year-olds, were coming in, oh, God! Oh, my heart! Oh, it broke me! And I just didn't have that reaction, and I was told that you just, that pretty much what you said. You're just you're too cool. You just don't. And I
That is
work,
not what I said.
but
I'm
I'm
going to refute that soon.
okay. I will rephrase. That you don't, you look down on them. You're, this isn't real comedy and all this, that, and the other thing. And I, believe it or not, I did a lot of soul searching on that, because it was like, yeah, why don't these things connect with me?
Right.
Why don't they get, I weep at The Bride of Frankenstein. I cry at The Full Monty. I cry at the end of Rocky Balboa when they're showing the footage of all the people running up the
You
steps.
cried at the beginning of Rocky
I do
Balboa.
cry at the rock. But the Pixar, so I just have this thing of why not
But I that
this?
what I'm saying is I do think that part of it was the age you were at. You didn't have kids that age. You were too old to connect with getting rid of your toys right then. Like you just it wasn't gonna hit you on that
But
deep level because you weren't in that phase of
see, no,
life.
because I disagree with that. When that third one came out, I was in my early 30s.
Right.
The concept of nostalgia, leaving your childhood behind, that I should have been right at the perfect age
Exactly,
for
but
that to
you
hit.
already weren't connected to the
You
characters.
know,
The reason that the third one hit so hard for many people was because they were already connected to those characters. And since you didn't have the deep connection to them already, then of course you're not going to have the second or third. I will tell you that one of the reasons Inside Out hit me so hard when I watched it was because my oldest daughter was about to turn 11, like she was that age, and we were talking about moving across the country. Like I connected to it on a visceral level, so like that is, I think, to me, a lot of the Pixar movies just happen to hit me at the right stages.
mm.
Okay. I'm not a huge fan of Up. I think A Bug's Life is cute, but it doesn't make me cry. What do you think about Monsters Inc?
Now, interestingly, Monsters Inc. is the only exception to the rule.
Okay.
Like, I truly enjoy Monsters Inc. I
Okay.
think Monsters Inc. is very cute. I think Billy Crystal and John
John
Goodman
Goodman.
are amazing together. Um, no, I can honestly say that Monsters Inc. is like the only Pixar movie that I can watch, and I will willingly rewatch just for
Right.
my own entertainment, and not just because our youngest wants to watch it.
So I am famously terrible at impressions,
Uh-huh.
but Roz from Monsters Inc. is one of the few that I can actually do.
Oh, that's okay.
Yeah.
You're gonna try to do it for us, aren't you? That's what you're leading up to here.
Wazowski. Where's your
You
paperwork,
need to be more
Wazowski?
Can you get it more gravelly?
Wazowski.
There you go. That's better. That's a little better.
Anyways, I do love Monsters Inc. Finding Nemo. No.
Don't. Finding Nemo is one of those ones that I walk out as like mixed messages. Just so many mixed messages. Let your kids go off and live their own lives. But the minute he did that, he was proven right. The kid got kidnapped. I mean,
Oh
it's
gosh.
like mixed messages. All
And
right.
I know you don't like Wally.
Wally, I don't like the hypocrisy of it.
Okay.
I do not like the
You,
hypocrisy.
you always, yeah. Okay,
There,
so
there,
explain this to me.
okay, and this took me a little while to understand. Like, I watched it, and yeah, I thought the animation was good and the characters were cute. There was something that just bugged me about it, just downright bugged me, and I couldn't put my fingers on it. And my best friend was my roommate at the time, and we were watching the special features, and then it hit me. This is a movie getting all preachy and all self-righteous about humans getting fat and lazy because we're letting machines do everything, la 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 la, in a computer animated movie. And I'm sorry, I'm not trying to shame anybody, but I saw the behind the scenes footage. None of those animators looked like they were training for the summer games.
Okay, we are
You
definitely
know,
not going to body shame
that is
anybody or look shame
that
anybody
I'm
on
not
this
look.
podcast.
I'm saying don't. It's like when TV shows would come at me in the '90s with "Turn off the TV and go read a book." Oh, so I should turn your show off then?
Well, it was
You know,
interesting to
or
me.
pro wrestling companies doing anti-bullying campaigns.
Well, one of the hallmarks of Pixar movies tends to be that the women in them are quite curvy and voluptuous and not fat shaming.
I'm not
So,
shaming. I'm telling them not to shame me.
Brave is actually a Pixar movie.
Yeah, Brave is.
Brave is a good movie.
It's a movie.
I enjoy Brave a lot. You don't enjoy Brave as much.
I like the accents.
Yeah. I really enjoy
The
Brave
accents
as a
are fun,
movie.
and Billy Connolly is always fun. He is one of those guys I could listen to him read the phone book just because I love Happy birthday, me wee darling. But other than that, yeah, it's a
Well,
movie
I
thing.
will agree with you about like on the Cars movies. Like I never really
Yeah, no, yeah, I don't
got
think.
into
Yeah, no.
the Cars movies. The Good Dinosaur was okay.
I
Finding
mean,
Dory was okay. Now Coco is a movie that makes me cry every time I watch it.
uh huh.
Yeah, have you watched Coco?
Hmm.
You don't find it like touching in any way?
I mean, yeah, like theoretically.
Like every time I watch it, I cry. What about how do you feel about The Incredibles?
The Incredibles I enjoyed when it came out because it was the closest thing we could get to a good superhero movie at the time.
Okay.
But there are good parts to it that I do enjoy. I cannot stand Dash.
Oh.
He is one of those characters I just want to smack.
Oh.
I hate that kid.
That's interesting.
And why?
Just because stories from your childhood indicate that you were a very hyper energetic, creative kid, that would be kind of Dash like.
I do not think I was anything like Dash. Thank you.
Did you ever watch Onward?
Yeah, we watched it.
Did we?
Yeah.
Oh.
You, me, and River watched it when I was still living in Tennessee.
Oh. I thought Onward was clever.
It was a movie.
I liked Onward a lot.
Like it, yeah. I mean,
and Soul. I enjoyed Soul too. One of the things that I enjoy about Pixar movies is that they delve deeper into existential themes. And I think that's part of why you don't like them.
why? I don't understand that criticism though.
I feel like maybe you think they take themselves too seriously, or think that they're trying to put out some kind of message, or be.
But I know they're trying to do those things. But that doesn't bother me.
Okay. Well, I enjoy the more existential searches.
I tend to believe. Okay, we were just having a conversation about the Thundermans or whatever, Victorious, all of these, god awful Nickelodeon shows or Disney shows, and the two of us are like, oh my god, it's so terrible. And people will get away with the argument, oh, it's just for kids. And I firmly believe that saying that making something for kids is not an excuse to slack off.
Right.
You have an obligation to try harder. So I do not begrudge Pixar their attempts to be more existential or more thought-provoking. I don't begrudge in them any of that. I'm just saying none of it connects with me.
Huh. What about Luca?
I liked Luca.
Yeah.
I liked Luca. I watched it on one of the plane rides coming here to see you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I liked Luca. I don't remember much about it, and I've never felt the need or desire to watch it again. But I liked it, so so I guess but that again, that's kind of my thing with Pixar movies is they don't really get to me. And I very rarely, with Monsters Inc. kind of being the only exception, never feel the need to watch them ever again.
I disagree strongly.
No kidding.
I think Inside Out was brilliant and a brilliant tool to use to help to teach kids to recognize and regulate their emotions.
Mm-hmm.
It gave a lot of teachers, especially teachers with special needs students, a shorthand that they were able to use with their students. Um, I think things like Brave were interesting and kind of. I think Brave is just a beautiful movie to watch. Like,
Oh, they're all very well animated.
yeah,
Like again, this is what I'm saying is I'm not disagreeing with anything you're saying.
right.
And apparently I'm in the minority because I'm like, and again, and this is one of the criticisms I've had to kind of face. This is one of the uh, the hardships I have faced in my life.
Oh gosh. Okay. Okay, white cis man.
um,
Let's.
is that even you tend to think that I go into these things going, oh boy, I can't wait to hate this movie.
But sometimes it does feel that
I
way.
go to see these movies, and I hope that they connect with me. And it does not give me any joy whatsoever to be the only person for whom these movies have no emotional connection to. Because it makes you start to think that there's something wrong with you.
No, I still
So it's
just
not a
think
it's
like, well, what you said before was that you don't have any emotional connection to them, and like I said, I think that it's just the times that they came out and your first watching of them, just where you happen to be in life, you know. And I think that if you were watching Inside Out for the first time now, with having three teenage stepdaughters, I think that you might feel differently about it. But you've already watched it once, so you can't have that feeling again, you know? So I don't know. But I could be wrong. There we'll see as we get into our review today about Elemental, how you currently feel about modern Pixar. But I'm sure this is not the last time we will have this conversation.
I'm sure it's not. I'm sure it's not.
So stay with us, and when we get back, we will talk about Elemental. Maybe, or
Can
I
you
might
find
not.
it?
Never. Oh,
There you
we
go.
go.
You
The
got it.
mouse got lost. Oh, is that your hold music?
I was just waiting for you to click the button.
Oh, okay. So we are back, and we are going to be talking about Pixar's latest release, the movie Elemental, which we saw with all three of our daughters.
And the oldest daughter's boyfriend.
Right. So let's just start off. Give us a basic rundown of the movie.
I don't know how to do that. Because I was trying to think about that earlier, is how do you condense this plot down? All right, so long story short, we're in a Zootopia situation where instead of the city being made up of animals, they're made up of elements. You got cloud people, you got earth people, you've got water people, and you've got fire people. So it's Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Well,
So,
spirit people.
so the four nations lived together in harmony until the fire people arrived in the city. Anyway, so the fire.
Strictly, I always thought Zootopia was a Pixar movie. It's not. Pixar.
No, it's not.
It's
just Disney.
But like Pixar, you have this idea of Elemental City being the place where the elements come together to live. And one thing that we talked about that Pixar does do well is world building.
This is true.
And so they're in this, I would say, a New York City type situation.
Yeah, I mean, any big city, really.
And it has different parts of town. Basically, this is an immigration story.
Yes. So the fire people are allegories for immigrants who come from Fireland and are trying to set up shop, literally.
Set up a shop.
Yeah. So it's like that. It's like that show Off the Boat.
Or
Kim's Convenience. Yeah.
So, okay. So the first thing that drove you nuts in this was that you felt like it wasn't a clear enough.
I was just getting so frustrated trying to figure out who were the fire people supposed to be allegories for. There was traces of Hindu culture in them. There was traces of uh,
Korean,
Korean,
Asian,
Asian. They held up a shirt.
Italian.
I did not. You keep saying the Italian. I don't see a lot of the Italian immigrant
It's
story.
the fireballs, the meatballs,
You know,
the fiery
and then they're
personality.
like, and then they hold up a shirt saying "Kiss me, I'm fryish." So I know they're
Irish.
firish. You know, they're
Irish.
trying to be an amalgam of all of these different immigration stories, and that's fine and dandy and good. But it was driving me nuts because I'm just like, your allegory is confusing, sir. You need to figure this out and kind of with a clear allegory and get back to me.
Well, one of the things that like really struck me Italian Irish is that when they first came over, they got off the boat and immediately were shunned by people. They were closed out of places that they wanted to rent. They couldn't get jobs, and so they end up in this part of town where they end up living in a building and fixing it up themselves and turning it into a store called Fireplace.
Yes, the fireplace.
Um, which is like selling fire goods, from Fireland. So like, these foods
Food's
and
good. You know, one of the things that I guess maybe because what was bugging me is I kept looking for my family's story in it, and the only part of it I really felt that with is the very, like you said, when they first arrive on the books, we had just had a conversation with my parents about when my great grandfathers arrived and had their names changed
right.
at Ellis Island. And that's one of the first things that happens in the movie is they come, they try to tell the person their name, and they're just given a,
Yes.
so I felt that was like, oh, okay, that's something I can relate to from my own family's history. And then after that, I felt like I was like, okay, well, I'm
Well, I think too the voice actors. I think knowing that the father Bernie is played by a Filipino voice actor, the mom who plays Cinder Sheila Vosaj or Voso is played by an Iranian voice actor. The person who plays um, Ember, our main character, is played by an Asian voice actor. And so um, it's an Asian American voice actor. So knowing like there's not really a continued line that way either.
yeah.
You know,
Well,
so I think it is an amalgamation.
yeah, and I get that. I do get that.
Okay.
Yeah, that's that.
That's it. You get that.
Yeah, that's yeah.
So
I don't know what else to say on that.
So, and I think that they show Ember having what you would consider first generation American, or I guess first generation Elemental City, kind of experience with her parents being immigrants and wanting to pass their store along to her, and her trying to find her space in the world. Being seen as different because she obviously looks different than the other elements, even though there are more fire people around them now, but still they're still the minority. They're still other because they can the other elements are afraid of what the fire will do to them. And honestly, the fire people are afraid of what the other elements are going to do to them. They're afraid the water is going to put them out or the clouds are going to blow them out.
Yeah.
And so there's not a lot of crossover at the beginning of the movie.
Well, you see a lot of crossover with the other elements, but yeah, fire is pushed to the so yeah.
She has a chance encounter with the water person Wade.
Yeah, who is a city inspector who accidentally ends up in her family shop, writes down all these violations, is going to take it to his boss, which is going to shut her families down, which means she has to go to the Elemental City to stop him. She does that, and through happenstance or shenanigans, they're told if you can figure out why things are flooding, they do that. they start seeing each other. So then it switches over to a Romeo and Juliet,
Right.
West Side
Or,
Story.
excuse me, as I like to call
Oh,
it,
this is good.
it's Romy Flo and Julie Hot.
Mm. Oh dear God.
If you can
Okay.
see the disappointment in his
Oh,
face.
you and your puns.
Ah.
But anyway, yes. So yeah. Anyway, so then it goes to that for a long time,
Right.
and then we're into the love story, and there's this weird thing about she wanted to see this special flower and didn't get a chance, and then he shows her the special flower, and yay! But oh no, the all is lost moment, and we can't be together because reasons and elements and family and blah blah blah.
You love a rom-com.
I do.
Yes. Okay. But she meets his family. I think his family was interesting.
That,
I
that was one of the highlights of the movie for me. I thought that was
So Catherine O'Hara was his mom.
yeah
And she meets his family,
his uncle, his his brother.
and his non-binary sibling, which is our first non-binary character.
I love how you're saying that like you picked up on that.
I didn't.
Like
I
I had to like I asked you later, what'd you think of that? You're like what non-binary? I thought they were a lesbian couple at first, and you research it, and you're like, oh, how did you miss that? You always find those things in these movies.
I was looking at the visuals of it. That's one of the reasons why things like Zootopia or like this Elemental, I'm gonna have to watch over again, because I get so drawn into the world building of it that I miss other things.
Oh, okay.
And so, but yeah, his family was really interesting. I thought her family was really interesting too. Her dad, even though he's a fire person, you expect him to have this fiery personality. He's actually really kind of calm most of the time. And his mom, or her mom, Cinder, I just kind of love, because she reminded me of like my great aunts. Just kind of bossy and commandeering and telling you what you're supposed to be doing.
Let me ask you this, because this is something that was starting to bother me, but I feel bad mentioning it unless I hear the actual actor speaking. What did you think of Bernie's or the father character's the broken English that he was using? Like, I could why it was starting to kind of make me go ooh, is it wasn't a heavily accented person talking. It sounded almost like caveman talk. What you doing here? Who you? And I'm starting to go, okay, if that's the way the actor actually talks, okay, fair. But if that's what you're putting on for an immigrant voice, I don't know if that was the best choice.
Well, the actor Ronnie Del Carmen was born and raised in the Philippines.
Yes, I know that.
So I would say that I didn't notice that. So
I was starting to notice it a lot.
hmm.
And I like I say, if that is the way the actor actually speaks, then fine, okay, no problems. But if that, I remember that I know retire now. It's like
I felt like it was more accented than that.
I did not.
So
It did not sound accented to me.
But here's the problem with that: is that you also don't hear your parents' accent. So I don't know.
Well, my parents also don't talk like cave people.
No, that's not what I'm saying. It's like I just don't know that you always recognize an accent. Like, but yeah, I didn't really. So I didn't notice it, and so it must not have been obvious to me. So I would have to go back and rewatch it.
Okay.
Oh, excuse me. I had a hiccup. How do you feel overall about the movie?
I mean, I feel like I kind of said it in the introduction. Overall, I felt it kind of I didn't think it was bad. I feel like the plot kind of bounced around a lot. Um,
I could see that a
you
little bit.
know,
My main issue would be they never really explain why the leak started
yeah,
and how they're gonna fix it in the future. That it
hmm,
just kind of gets swept under the rug. But
yeah,
um,
and basically all in service of some big third act action sequence, so we can all, think that Wade is dead. It's when he sacrifices himself to.
okay,
It's like,
I was crying.
yeah, I know. I
So
was sitting
up
next to you,
yours. Uh huh.
but
Um.
like, did you honestly think that they were gonna kill him off?
Yes, I did.
Really?
I did.
Really?
Yes.
Because I was just like, okay, when's he coming back?
No, I did. I thought they were gonna kill him off. So, and oh, excuse me for getting emotionally invested in movies. And like, jeez, I'm sorry that you feel like you need to make me feel bad about
I'm not
that.
making you feel bad about it.
So I don't know. I thought a lot of the side characters were really interesting.
I thought that they had kind of like with Zootopia. I wanted it to slow down a little bit because I wanted to see how the world worked, because they had some really wonderful things. The weird basketball
Right.
game that the air people were playing, the uh, just the way that the
Transportation worked.
transportation worked. Yeah. Um, the yeah, there's a lot of neat stuff that you can tell somebody. I sometimes wonder if Pixar or Disney bring in like city designers
Yeah, it's
or
very.
city planners to kind of try to figure out how this would all practically work, because it seems very well thought out. Like, did you notice the details of Ember's clothing?
That it was like a fire resistant kind of like a fire blanket.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that her
Hmm.
dress and her hoodie and her parents' clothes and all their clothes were made out of that, and it was styled different. That's really great detail. That's creative thinking. I think the animators for Disney and Pixar have got some really creative minds, and those little details are what kind of, again, make the world feel flushed out and real.
Right. Well, and I like we talked about this right after we saw it. I feel like they don't slow it down on purpose because these are the kind of movies your children watch and rewatch and rewatch and rewatch. And I have no lie, no exaggeration, seen Zootopia over 100 times.
Yes.
And because it's one of the movies that my daughter will fall asleep to. And so
So have
I
we?
enjoy that I can still catch little
I
things.
hadn't thought of that, but that is a valid reason.
Right.
They know the parents are going to be watching. Some parents are going to be watching these movies a million times, so the more interesting you can kind of make it for them,
Right.
the easier
I
it's
mean,
going to be
when
to watch a
The
million
Little
times.
Mermaid and Cinderella, and when they even in the 80s and early 90s, you didn't necessarily have to make a movie for rewatch that much because they would put the movies in the vaults and you
Yeah.
wouldn't be able to get them. And you saw it once a year when it came on the Walt Disney
Well,
Channel.
hell, like ones like Cinderella and those, they didn't think rewatch was going to be a thing at all.
Right. So
You know?
now you have to build your movies to last.
Yeah. That is
Uh,
true. That is a very good point. With a lot of things these days, is they have to be made with rewatch value in mind.
so I really enjoyed Elemental. It's right up my alley. Sweet, adventurous, romantic comedy story. I love the city design. I'm all about the natural elements. I don't know. It hit a lot of sweet spots for me. And if you're going from the kid perspective, our youngest is 11, and then
Hmm.
we have 14 and 17-year-old, and they all enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Um, like the the two youngest especially were really into it, and like, I mean, if it our 14-year-old is very ADHD. She has a sitcom length attention span.
If
So
that.
for her to truly enjoy a movie all the way through is pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah, you know what I thought was really well done is I do think the love story between Wade and Ember was very, very well crafted.
Right.
I like that it takes place over a period of weeks and months,
Right.
and it avoids the traditional. And I'm not even going to just say Disney trap. This is a problem with a lot of movies. Hi, I met you, saw you from across a crowded room, and now after 2 days of fighting, we're in love.
No,
You
yeah, they
know,
got along pretty well at the beginning, and the answer to her problem wasn't marrying him.
yeah.
Her happily ever after wasn't being with Wade. It was the other circumstances in her life that he actually helped her with,
Hmm.
not just fall in love with me and all your problems will be gone.
Yeah, but yeah. So I felt like it was a wee wee,
A wee
a wee
wee.
wee, a really well crafted love story.
Okay.
Even and again, not even by Disney Pixar standards. I think by movie standards, I think it was one of the better ones.
Okay. Okay, that's
So
positive.
yeah.
Anything else that you would like to point out?
Just I don't know. I again, I kind of felt the same way about it. I feel about a lot of the Pixar films. I don't think it's bad. I think it's more tolerable than some of the other ones. Like Ratatouille.
Oh, I love Ratatouille.
Um, I think I don't see any real problems with it. It didn't really connect with me that much, and uh, I know I'm going to watch it multiple times,
Right.
so I know I'm going to have the time to reevaluate. But I don't know. I think it was okay. I just don't know if it was for me.
I think it was very beautiful to watch. I think it had interesting and flawed but likable characters. And yeah, I am definitely on board with watching it a whole bunch more times.
Hmm.
So yeah, I don't know.
So okay, so I'm going to ask this question, and just kind of we may have to come back and do a brief discussion on this. So this film kind of has fallen into the category with a lot of films this summer: Shazam, Indiana Jones, The Flash, of movies that they are saying, quote unquote, bombed, meaning they did not live up to the financial expectations of their studios. With these other films, I can think of a million reasons why didn't why they didn't succeed. This one I don't really have a strong
I will give you
reason.
two reasons,
Okay.
and both of them are going to be based in the way I grew up versus the way you grew up.
Okay.
I grew up in a very conservative, very ultra religious Christian household. You did not.
Okay.
Um, a movie about the elements is going to be too close to witchcraft for your Christian audiences, for your
Okay.
super conservative Christian audiences. Um, Especially if you're talking about it it also being about immigration and mixing races.
Mm.
Your ultra conservative Christians are not going to be down with that message. And that's why a lot of the ultra conservative Christians aren't super big Pixar fans, for movies like things like Inside Out um, and whatnot, anyways, or Zootopia,
Mm.
um, because that is not, especially in the circles that my family were in when I was growing up, that is not something that they want their children to learn about.
Okay.
The other reason is also because of that group of people, um, the Sound of Freedom came out the same week.
Ah.
And not only were churches and religious organizations giving out free tickets to the Sound of Freedom, it was also getting pushed in churches
Hmm.
and whatnot, and by Angel Studios. So, because of those two things, I think that is why Elemental did not do as well in the box office
Hmm.
as you may have expected. But I also think that it's going to be kind of a sleeper thing. I think that it is going to get and build an audience, and you're going to have kids who are really into it.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So you think those might be viable?
I think those are viable. The mystery to me is that a lot of those things that you bring up, which are excellent points, it didn't seem to hurt things like Inside Out, or
Well,
you
Inside
know,
Out, you're dealing with humans.
you
You're
know,
dealing with white humans,
true.
and you didn't really. It's hard to talk about emotions being bad, and also you're not up against, what a lot of Christians are going to think is the best movie of the year.
Okay.
Which I have some issues with the Sound of Freedom, and we will not be reviewing that
No,
one
definitely
or
not.
seeing that one. So
Okay.
yeah,
No, I think those are viable. It's like I say, of all the other films that have quote unquote bombed, and by that meaning they made,
well, Indiana Jones bombed for a reason.
and so did The Flash.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know,
I mean, you have half of the people who you have. I'm going to go off on a mini rant here, but you have people who are really into comic book stories are either really liberal left thinking people like we are, or kind of the incel fanboy neckbeard crowd. And so the half of us who are like the liberal leftist superhero fans are going to be like, I'm never going to go see a movie that Ezra Miller made.
you're talking about The Flash.
The Flash.
Because you said Indiana Jones.
Oh, I meant The
So
Flash.
I was like, wait,
Yes. No
was
wonder
India?
you looked confused.
Yeah, I was a little confused there.
No, The Flash is what I mean.
But that's
I'm
what
never going to go see a movie Ezra Miller made unless a lot of things change for him, because he is currently a very bad person.
But no, see, and like I said, these are reasons I can see why those movies didn't succeed.
Right.
This one, which seems to follow a lot of the Pixar checklist, and as we've kind of said, the Pixar films. But then again, Pixar has kind of taken a little bit of a downturn ever since the pandemic, with a lot of their movies like Luca and I think Turning Red was one of theirs,
It
going
was.
right to Disney Plus, not doing the
Well,
theatrical release.
and that was during COVID, but also a lot of conservative parents
Yeah.
didn't like Turning Red either, because how dare we talk about puberty
And periods, yeah.
and periods.
So it's this is the one that's really kind of confused me in terms of why
I almost would guarantee you it's it being too close to witchcraft thing, because we're not quite to a satanic panic level that we were in the 80s, but it is getting there.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
Of fear about things that are other.
Yeah,
and
you're not wrong.
So yeah,
You are
that
not
would be
wrong.
why I would.
Okay,
So,
well, I think those are viable arguments.
so anyways,
All right.
but I liked it. I honestly like. I would say this is an A- movie for me.
Mm.
Like, probably the most enjoyable movie we've watched this summer so far. I'm counting like June, July.
Okay.
So probably for me the most enjoyable one.
I'm gonna go B-.
Oh, okay.
That's
not as bad as
I thought again, folks. This is what I'm saying. I don't hate Pixar. I just don't feel like they just don't kind of do it for me. But I think they're serviceable.
Yeah.
They're fine. I don't leave them, except in maybe one or two instances, with absolute hatred in my heart. It's just, this is these they're not for me, and it's kind of like horror films. I made the decision that these, I'm sure I keep hoping for another Monsters Inc. that'll prove me wrong or be the exception to the rule. But I'll be okay watching this when River wants to watch it for the 500th time.
Right.
But I'm not going to seek it out on my own. but
Right.
you can do a lot worse.
True.
So, and we may talk about one of the lot worse. We'll have to discuss that because there is something I do want to talk to you about reviewing.
Anyways, so I am currently trying to talk him into watching the movie about the guy who created Hot
You
Cheetos.
don't have
So,
to talk me into it. I
all
said we
right.
were going to do it.
So hopefully that will be the next review that we have coming up for you
Yep.
guys. So let us know what you think about Elemental. Is it Does it follow the Pixar formula? Is it going to be the next sleeper hit, or is it just going to be one that kind of flies under the radar and gets put to the back of the DVD shelves?
Yep. So thanks for coming along with us. Thanks for hearing us out. We will see you next time. And as always, drive safe, and we will see you at the movies.